Jonathan.
Welcome to The Average.
Welcome to Night 8 of our spine-chilling 13 Nights of Halloween series, where we pit horror movie remakes against their original counterparts in a battle for ultimate fright supremacy. Tonight, we're inching closer to Halloween, and tonight, we're taking a step back in time to experience the classic horror that started it all. Tonight, we're featuring the 1953 version of The House of Wax, starring the legendary Vincent Price. For a classic horror film like this, a sophisticated and eerie cocktail pairing is in order. Introducing the Wicked Wax Martini, a drink that embodies the elegance and macabre essence of the film. Head over to our social media page to grab the recipe. But don't stop there. We want you to be a part of the Fright Fest. Watch along with us and share your thoughts and reviews. We have a handy little link in our Instagram bio where you can submit your scores the exact same way we do. Whether you're a fan of the originals or prefer the remakes, your opinion matters. We'll be tallying up the scores, tagging everybody who submits a review and provides a valid tag to see how these head-to-head scores play out. When Halloween rolls past and we're stuck in the gray days of despair until next Halloween, we'll post the winners, original or remake. We're thrilled to be joined once again by Ricky from the Nightclub Podcast, who will lend his horror expertise and passion for the genre to our discussion.
Hey, glad to be here.
Right.
I'm feeling quite flammable this evening.
Sweet.
Excellent.
Get ready to be transported to the golden age of horror cinema as we unravel the eerie charm and timeless terror of this iconic film. So dim the lights, settle in, and prepare to explore the macabre magic of the House of Wax.
Crushed it.
Crushed it, bro.
Yeah, so good. All right, it's been a couple days. We were night 2, now we're night 8, so if my math is correct, we haven't seen you for 6 days. So, ready to dive into this original.
Let's do it.
Are we all first-time viewers of this original?
I am.
Yes. I've never seen it before.
Yep, I hadn't either. So it's one that I'd known about because I grew up on Vincent Price, but it somehow escaped my viewing when I was younger. So
I just haven't seen a lot of old horror, especially Vincent Price, which is something I've been meaning to remedy for a long time. Like I've got like DVD collections of Price movies that I just haven't popped in and watched, but this was a pleasant surprise.
Yeah, I've never done that, like a real deep dive on Vincent Price, but I do love him. Like, thanks to my mom always playing a lot of his stuff growing up and like having that on the TV, man, that was super impactful for like how I understand like film, especially from a young age. So
it was my mom too. She introduced me to Price growing up, but I think he's kind of the gateway for a lot of people into horror itself. He's kind of
fair,
and he was very versatile. Like, wasn't he in like the original Batman series as Egghead?
What?
I want to say.
I don't know.
The animated Batman series?
No, the one with Adam West.
Oh, he was.
He was Egghead, right?
He was Egghead. Yeah.
So like I remember him from that, but like aside from this, and is it the
Edward
old
Scissorhands?
Is it the old Dark House or is it House on Haunted Hill?
House on Haunted Hill.
Aside from like House on Haunted Hill and maybe a very few others, I haven't seen a lot of Price, so this was exciting. I've been meaning to jump into some more Price.
Most people
also some more Hammer horror I've been wanting to dive into, but just never got around to it. But here we go.
So most people, like you mentioned, you might know him from Batman 66. I think one of his last film roles was Edward Scissorhands, where he played the scientist.
I haven't seen that in so long. I could not tell you.
Such a great movie.
I could not tell you.
One of my favorite films growing up, for sure.
He played the scientist who made Ed. So
all I remember about that movie is my boy cutting shrubbery, and then like later on, maybe he's mad or something and he's fucking it up. Like that's all I remember.
Yeah, it's a great film.
I've been meaning to dive into that too.
So let's break this down tonight. We can discuss the 2005 remake and this one, comparing and contrasting what we liked, where things came from. So both movies are on the table tonight, but we're reviewing the 53. So Jonathan, you got that plot breakdown for us?
Yeah, so in this 1953 classic, directed by Andre de Toth, Vincent Price delivers a super captivating performance as Professor Henry Jared, a talented wax sculptor who becomes vengeful after his business partner betrays him and burns down their wax museum. The cast includes Phyllis Kirk as Sue Allen, Carolyn Jones as Kathy Gray, Frank Lovejoy as Detective Tom Brennan. And dude, I didn't even realize this towards the end, but Charles Bronson as Igor, the deaf mute. Super cool.
What?
The plot,
I didn't even catch
I know
that.
you wouldn't notice it without the
Wow.
mustache, really. It's crazy. But the plot centers on Jared's descent into madness and his sinister plan to rebuild his wax museum using real human bodies coated in wax. As the new wax figures draw crowds, Sue becomes suspicious about the uncanny resemblance between the sculptures and missing people in the area. She teams up with Detective Brennan to uncover the horrifying truth between Jared's masterpieces. So the House of Wax also holds a special place in horror history as one of the first 3D films, and it's also like a pivotal moment for Vincent Price's illustrious career, establishing him as a master of horror. Its cultural significance is marked by its innovative use of 3D technology and its lasting influence on the horror genre, setting the stage for future films that blend artistry with terror. So, yeah, let's go in. Let's delve into this dark, waxy world of this 1953 masterpiece and see how it stands the test of time against its modern remake.
Let's do it.
Cue John Cena. Da, 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 you know. All right, so we're going to jump into story, plot. Rick, why don't you fucking start us off, man, as our guest? What's up? What do you think?
Let's see. Let me go look at the card. So story plot. How unique, compelling, and original is the story you just watched? I gave it a 3. I kind of knew what was going to happen, like just through osmosis of hearing about this movie all my life, but never watching it.
This was the negative of seeing the remake first.
Also, yeah. Yes. Also that. So I already kind of knew what was going to happen. That being said, there were some pleasant surprises with this, and I don't know if it fits in with the story plot at the moment. I'm going to say no. I'm going to say it doesn't fit in with the story or plot at the moment, but this was more than serviceable. It was a fun watch throughout. Nothing negative, like overly negative about it. So,
yeah. So I'll go ahead. I also agree. I gave it a 3, and I feel like I'm being critical here, but I thought it borrowed a lot from other stories to create this, and this is actually a remake of another movie.
Yeah.
So this is a remake of The Mystery of the House of Wax from the 30s, I believe.
Yeah, 37 or something like, which I just found out today while I was doing research.
Yeah, when I made this last time, I was like, "Oh, really?" Like, oh.
Yep. When I made this list, I had no idea it was from that either. But then I found out this is actually another remake. So we're judging this one as the original.
We'll just pretend that didn't happen.
Yeah, it didn't happen. It's definitely probably
we didn't see it. It didn't exist.
Yeah, it's more well known. It's definitely more influential, I would say.
Oh, 100%.
But it got this. I got this Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde feel from this movie.
Sure.
Yeah.
And I thought it was borrowing that idea. There were some things that I didn't really care for in the execution of that made it feel a little clumsy as far as story goes. But the premise is, by today's standards, I'll say it early because I'm thinking about it the whole time. By today's standards, this is about as scary as a Goosebumps episode.
Sure. Right. Yeah.
This movie is not scary, but this movie is dripping with, like we said in the intro, this movie is macabre. This movie is fantastic atmosphere and like gloom and just great that way. But
a lot of that has to do with the set design. I feel
don't get me started.
I was going to talk about that.
We're going to get into that. I'm
That's
sure.
editing and special effects for sure.
Hell
but
yeah.
the story itself, I thought it borrowed from Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde and then kind of created its own thing. I did not like, and this could go story, this could go script, how it's also in character. It kind of goes everywhere.
Sure.
Where he went crazy. Like, he had this accident and then he went crazy. And that's where I think it kind of created that split personality, that Dr. Jekyll, where before or Mr. Hyde.
Well, he was kind of crazy to begin with, but he really jumped the shark into like cuckoo banana butt territory.
It revealed that other nature to him.
Right, yeah.
This whole time, I gave it a 3 because it is a remake of The Mystery of the House of Wax. And I thought it borrowed quite a bit, even in imagery, from the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde stories and earlier movies that came before it.
Right, Phantom of the Opera type of stuff. And
yes, Phantom of the Opera stuff as well.
Agreed. Yep. It's a very familiar story. But it was perfectly serviceable, is kind of how I felt.
Yep. It is not, giving this a 3 is not a complaint. It packaged these things up really well into a good story. As far as the originality, I don't think it's super, super original, but it's good. It's good.
It's fair.
Okay, so I gave it a 5.
That's okay.
Before looking into all the details and all that stuff, because for the time it came out, it's not a common theme. The wax museum situation, right. There's not a lot of that. Like the so-called original that it was made off of, maybe like whatever early 30s were some set. Mystery of the House of Wax.
Mystery of the House of Wax.
Yeah. So I didn't really know about that, but still, it seemed pretty original for the time to me. You got this guy who's he already seems a little kind of cuckoo over his creations, especially Marie Antoinette. He's got a certain obsession about it and how he talks to them, which I can understand would be creepy for his business partner.
Y'all think he bangs that mannequin? I feel like he bangs that mannequin.
Maybe. He might be getting down a little tutti frutti with some wax. I don't know, man.
We just declassed this Vincent Price movie.
Horribly. Oh
my job here is done.
Sweet. But yeah, with his whole obsession with his wax and then these hopes of having something greater in store for his work and his talent, and then it all being brought down by his greedy shitbag business partner who's like, no, I don't want to wait 3 months. I want to do something now. Like, I want my money. Like, pay me now, boy. Pay me now, boy.
What a wonderful scumbag, man. He's just like the personification. He's the personification of like one of those old political cartoons where it shows like some greedy fat cat politician and like everything's just coming to him and someone else is next to him starving to death. And he's like fat as fuck.
Satirism, yeah.
Yeah.
I loved his all it takes is a match. And
but like Maddie himself though, even after, Henry is supposedly dead, he tries to play it up to his lady, to Sue, like he's or to Kathy, like somehow he cared so much about it, was blah, blah, blah. Like, dude's a dirt bag.
Immediately, I'm like, oh God, I hate this guy.
Really tried to play on that for his own charms.
Also, her giggling drove me fucking crazy.
Jeez. Oh, dude, yeah, that was pretty rough, but you get past it.
But especially at about the 40-minute mark.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd say so.
But yeah, you got a whole bunch of stuff going on. You got some death happens. Oh my God, my roommate. I'm behind on my rent. Now, conveniently, I get to stay with this dude, Scott, and his mom. While I'm trying to recover from my trauma. But yet, oh no, creepy guy coming after me in my room's going to like take me out. And the dude just snatching bodies. It's kind of seems like kind of a unique kind of story set.
It's almost slasherish too. I felt like not in the gory sense, but just the way these characters are picked off one at a time. And then you get this sweet reveal. Right. Then you get the sweet reveal of what he did with them. It's sort of proto-slasherish, which I did appreciate.
No, I'm glad you brought that up because I definitely felt that watching this. Like, it's not a slasher, but the way he picks off people one by one, we're not always told how he did it. Like, the girl he picks off was poisoned, but we don't know who she went on the date with that poisoned her.
Yeah, who's
so,
the guy? But could have been.
Yes.
I think it was our boy.
It could have been our boy. It could have been one of his sidekicks that was in on it as well. Could have been one of them.
You're not going to tell Charles Bronson no, even if he can't hear you or talk to you. Either way, you're in.
So yeah, that couldn't have been him.
Yeah.
So we had Charles Bronson and then Javier Bardem just a couple of years too early.
Right.
But then she's taken out for the killer's satisfaction. So we also have that killer that's super popular in the 80s to have your slasher villain be some kind of deformed outcast from society.
Exactly. The Burning. So,
like The Burning, classic example.
Same thing, basically,
Yeah.
I mean,
set on fire, scarred, comes back for revenge. So there were a lot of those things that I picked up on this that I was like, man, is this the first proto slasher, 1953? But some people, I wouldn't call it that, but
I wouldn't either. But it's got a little something.
Yeah,
but the way you see him kill Maddie, though, like I don't think for the time you usually see people getting hung straight up like that in a film.
That was,
especially within the confines of your apartment building. What a way to build some terror on people who live in like boarding houses and such, and these business buildings.
Such a good scene.
Best kill of the film too. Best kill of the film.
Right?
That was
a very
so
satisfying one. It's very satisfying.
Fun,
because that guy was such a shitbag. So there was a lot going on there that I thought was pretty unique for the time. So that's why I hit my 5, man. I think that's pretty rad.
You do that. Do that shit, man.
That's fair. All right. So the character, we kind of dove into it a little bit as we were going here, and I brought it up. So I'm going to go ahead and start. But I really enjoyed actually how at the beginning of the movie, he's a little kooky. He talks to his wax figures.
Oh yeah, he does.
He hears more than that. He hears his wax figures.
I don't think that's all he's doing with them, but I'm just saying.
It's more than just talking to them. They apparently talk to him. But he says multiple times, like, he doesn't want to get into the macabre stuff. He doesn't want the creepy stuff. He is in it for the art form. He doesn't want to make money. He is an artist.
Right.
And I love that. And then at the end, he's like, you know what? Full in, like, I'm doing the macabre stuff.
Right.
The only thing is I never got the impression that he was doing it for money. I got more the idea that he was doing it to get revenge on his business partner.
Yeah, and whoever else he could enact vengeance on for being society, I guess.
Connections with him. I think like the missing DA guy, like they say it was a DA, maybe like somebody went missing already.
Yes, they did.
Was John Wilkes Booth because he looks similar to his photos.
Right.
So he's picking, he's looking in like the
what
way
was his name, Wilbur or something like that. Like, this looks like just like Wilbur if you took the mustache off him.
And actually, Jonathan, that just made me think he picked off the DA associated with his insurance case.
That's what I was going to say. That was the point I was going to make, and I totally fell off. Sorry, but yeah, exactly.
My mind was just
first.
The chief
and then he goes
of
to his
police
girlfriend, who's a shitbag gold digger.
The chief of police too. He picked off because they mentioned that the Neanderthal at such and such exhibit looks just like the. So I thought that was fun the way they were connecting the dots. So like everyone in this wax museum looks like someone around here.
Man, those are subtle details that you really got to be paying attention to, but it makes it, I love it. And that makes my score
fun. Yeah.
That makes my score later. I'm definitely sticking to it. I debated changing it, but I'm sticking to it.
I might come up. The more I'm talking about this, I might go from a 3 to a 4.
I'm already feeling that as we talk. But the arc of this film of watching him, I wish it was more of a gradual thing, but we go from seeing him at his purest state to going to see him insane
directly. Yeah.
Yes, it is. It is a cut scene. That is it.
Yeah.
And we jump forward in time, and then we're there. And this movie jumps forward in time a couple times, but it's not really a drawn out arc. It's here's how he started, here's where he ended up. And I'm kind of okay with that because it shows everything in between that we needed to know to get there. There's not really many arcs for the others. I do think who is our main girl?
Oh, that would be Sue.
Yeah, Sue.
So
Kathy's friend.
Nobody wants to fucking listen to Sue, bro. Like, boy,
yes.
No one give her a fucking chance and understand except the one detective kind of.
This is like a movie of its time, and I understand that like you can't just, back then you couldn't just take everything women said.
She's a woman. They're going to tell her she's crazy.
Right.
They're not going to take her seriously because she's hysterical.
Oh, yeah. They gaslit the fuck out of that woman the whole movie. She's the only one that knew what was going on.
In the worst way.
One of the police officers at a point goes, leave it to a skirt.
Leave it to a skirt. This broad here.
That dude and his bad timingly inappropriate jokes and shit. That guy, he was a hell of a character, dude. Man,
it's one of those things that it's terrible and hilarious at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, me and my wife were laughing. We were enjoying it.
It did not age well on that. Part of me, it's hard to watch that now without viewing it as comedy. I watched it and I was like, is that written as a joke? Because it plays off hilarious right now.
A lot of the interactions between her and just men in general came off as very comedic.
Dude, Scott, he was like, oh God, that dude, he was gaslighting the shit out of her too, man. Just trying to downplay her fears and shit.
Also, her and the other chick, what was her character's name? Morticia.
Oh
yeah, Kathy.
Her and Kathy's interaction drove me crazy too. Because
that's what I was going to bring up. Because we start the movie with Kathy just putting her down. Putting her down.
This woman's helping you get dressed with all your crazy clothes.
Yeah.
And you're telling her she's ugly.
You're not pretty.
She's prettier than you, first of all. And second of all, like, she's literally tying your shoes for you, bitch.
Yes.
Like, what the fuck?
Meanwhile, she's talking about how she's made it in society and men pay attention to her and whatever.
She lives in a boarding house. Okay.
She straight up says at one point, like, you would never understand, Kathy. And I'm like, this bitch. But then
Waterhouse, ratchet, classy, straight up. That's her.
So then I do like that Kathy kind of gets that redemption. So this whole time she's being put down. She started as like that first scene of her helping her get dressed.
Right.
I'm like, is this just the handmaid? Like, I didn't realize she was going to become important.
Same, right.
And then she becomes the focus of the movie. She becomes his Marie Antoinette.
Right.
He can't go on without her. So,
obsession.
Yeah. She gets that redemptive arc of nobody's listening to her. So she has to go out and do it herself and prove them wrong. And I kind of like that. So
I do too. Even though she still ends up being the typical, and I mean, it's a movie of the times, but the damsel in distress at the end that just needs some big, strong man to come save her. But even though she does, I agree, she does have a very clear and satisfying arc, because finally she knows at least that she's right. She doesn't have to listen to all these other folks,
She's like, I told you, sons of bitches. Right. Now you know. Next time, listen.
He's trying to pour wax on me. You better give me that fucking coat to cover my titties.
I'm here out in the breeze, just about going to get covered in hot. Yeah, no.
Yep.
No.
The other thing that is crazy, and I wondered if this is where we've mentioned kind of the sexism, blatant sexism in the script, is that this is supposed to take place in the late 19th century.
Right. And that's
And
another
so-
thing I wanted to bring up is the
Okay.
fucking time period, the period piece of it. I found just, I love that time
I
period.
kind of wondered about that because of certain elements, which
The gas
may go
lights.
more
The
into
gas lights
editing
and
special
Gaslights
effects.
were the big
Yes.
indicator.
I was going to bring
Yeah.
that up in the editing special effects. Yeah, that just seemed very impractical and very dangerous. Like, why the hell is that there?
Yeah. So I got curious about the way they treat women in this. I wonder if it was intended as humor, because this was 53. We're more progressive than 1800 something.
Sure.
And so I wondered if the phrases like "leave it to a skirt" are poking at the way women might have been treated back then and meant to be.
I was questioning that myself. I was kind of like, but
yeah.
I'm leaning towards maybe not. That's where I was leaning. It seems like it wasn't meant to be a joke, but maybe that's just me not being from the time period also, you know.
Well, anyways, with those two stories going on, I gave the character a 4. I thought it was a pretty good arc for both of them, for both Kathy and Jared. I thought they were good. I did think, while we're talking about characters, naming the crazy twin in the remake after Vincent Price.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Don't tell me that was not an accident.
Right.
Named it after Vincent Price. The crazy twin, they kind of split the twins in the remake from Jared's character in this. We have the scarred one,
mm-hmm.
and then we have his public-facing side, and it's turned into the twins in the remake. But I definitely caught the character name. The killer in the remake is named Vincent. The killer in this one is named Jared. And the mystery of House of Wax does not have any carryover into this film as far as names go that I could see.
Okay.
So I gave it a 4 on character.
I'm going to a 4. The more I talk about them, the more I'm reminiscing and enjoying the characters and what they added to the film. Also, I want to say because I saw it coming a mile away, but I bet in 53 people didn't. The fact that Price was in a chair after the accident, I bet, well, it can't be. Yeah, bitch. Of course it's him. That chair's a fake out. And I'm sure a lot of people didn't see it coming. So I bet this movie was fucked up back then, dude. I bet.
Could you imagine the audible gasps? Could you imagine the audible gasps?
Right.
Yeah.
That and when the homie gets hung from the window.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Well, not window, from the elevator.
The elevator, yeah.
The other one so you mentioned the bait and switch with the wheelchair. I also thought so many times in this film that his Igor looked like he was wearing the Charles Bronson looked like he was wearing a wax face. Multiple times.
Whatever makeup they did made him have like deep lines and color. Like,
well,
it was kind of weird.
Then they draw the attention to he can only make his own face.
Right.
Maybe because he touches his face a lot and he's got wax on his hands. Maybe that's why he does that and does the same thing.
I thought it was subtle misdirection to think that, okay, our buddy Jared's in a chair. He's having Igor go out and do the killing. Igor is the scarred one for some reason. I thought it was just another misdirection, the way they made him look super waxy. They didn't go into it a ton, but I was like, his face looks fake. Vincent doesn't. So
right.
Well, for me, I was at a 4. I was at a 4 the whole time, man. Like I liked each character, how they portrayed themselves. You know, even the other assistant, the guy who was the alcoholic, like the way the detectives played on his need for alcohol, his shakes and his just addiction. Man,
he's the one that looks like Javier Bardem.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, there you go. Man, but that was like crazy. But like even small side character like that, you know, they're talking about this guy from Sing Sing who used to paint this stuff on walls. You know, there's a certain sense of depth, you know, for certain characters in there with like minor backstory. You don't get much, but like you still get some understanding of like their situation, how they ended up where they are, since they're in part of that criminal element already.
Right.
That's how they kind of get involved with him, with Jared somehow, Henry Jared. Yeah, I just thought it was pretty cool, man. But I would like to say though, with back to Kathy, even though she was kind of a butthole to Sue, like she had that redeeming factor because she cared enough about Sue to be like, here, take this, here's some money, pay some of your rent, do whatever, or buy yourself a meal. And she told her, buy yourself some food.
That's
that way you can just eat, then if you need to, maybe later I can give you some money for rent, to help you out. She cares enough about her, but she's just like, she's that bitch friend.
Now I just realized that I switched their names and I was talking about Kathy when I meant to be talking about Sue. So go back and re-listen to the last 10 minutes and I meant Sue. I
knew what you meant anyway. It's all good.
Yeah, I'm terrible with names.
I am
in person, movies, books, all of it. I'm terrible with names. It is nothing, doesn't take away from my enjoyment. It just means I'm probably going to mess it up. All right, so we were 4s across the board on character.
Nice.
Okay. Before we jump into the next category, I want to tell you a little bit about Zencastr. When I was preparing for our 13 Nights of Halloween series, I was really searching for a way to streamline the process. I wanted a professional looking setup to invite our guests to. I wanted quality audio and video recording, and I wanted the easiest way to release the episodes to as broad of an audience as possible. This is how I landed on Zencastr. It is now super easy to record a podcast with Zencastr. Just log in using your browser and start recording a high-quality podcast right away. Record studio-quality sound and up to 4K video with your guests. Feel a sense of zen knowing Zencastr's multi-layered backups ensure you always have your recordings in the highest quality, even if the connection is unstable. And speaking of audio quality, have you ever worried what you sound like? Zencastr's post-production process makes you sound buttery smooth. It automatically removes those ums and ahs in your recording. It removes those awkward pauses in conversation too. Set the podcast loudness and levels while reducing background noise with the click of a button. So if you are thinking of starting your own podcast or just want to streamline what you are already doing, go to zencastr.com/pricing and use my code AVERAGECUSTOMER and you'll get 30% off your first month of any Zencastr paid plan. That's average customer, one word. I want you to have the same easy experiences I do for all of my podcasting and content needs. It's time to share your story. So let's dive into the next category. So the music and sound design, my God, do I miss when music was like this in films.
Agreed.
So I did not give it a 5. There's not an identifiable theme that you could play today that people would go, oh, that's House of Wax 1953.
Sure.
You play the Psycho theme today, people know, most people would either recognize it or tell you what it was from. So it's not a 5 for me. But this music is, first of all, almost nonstop the entire film, and it's beautiful. It's so good. It is fantastic music.
Old school composing.
Yes, old school composing, old school orchestra. It rises and falls with the points of the movie. It makes sense with the moments in the movie. I loved the special attention in when we're first getting the tour. Okay. So one of the flaws of the movie, we tour the House of Wax in the first 10 minutes and then it burns down. And then we tour the new one later at like 40 minutes.
Right.
And we get 2 touring the House of Wax scenes, but it does compare. One is like moments in history and the other one is like murders and stuff. But
blend of.
And then in the first one, when they talk about John Wilkes Booth and Abraham Lincoln, they play a classic American song mixed in with the composition.
Did they?
Yeah.
I'm going to grab it
Okay,
here.
it's Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Oh, shit.
Battle Hymn of the Republic.
Yeah,
Okay.
they play Battle Hymn of the Republic when he's talking about Abraham Lincoln's assassination.
Oh yeah, it did sound kind of patriotic. Had a patriotic tone when that was going on. Okay. Yeah.
I caught that. I was like, that was real clever. I appreciate that. So I was a fan of that. So
We're not allowed to listen to that song in Louisiana, bro.
No.
I'm playing.
oh, you actually muted the movie during that.
This ain't right.
Didn't
He
want
brought up Abraham Lincoln.
didn't want the president to come find me.
So I noticed that and I was like, damn, I like it. It's just, we don't get music that grand
Exactly.
anymore.
Right.
It's grand. It's probably over the top at times, but it's undeniably.
It's over the top, I agree, but it's still effective no matter what.
Yeah,
Like-
it's great stuff.
Like it makes me, and this is probably a horrible comparison. No, you know what? Fuck that. It's not. It makes me think of like the orchestral music in Star Wars. You know, Luke's looking at the different suns setting in the sky, and that fucking music swells, and it's just epic and beautiful. Like, yeah, I agree. Like, where the fuck did this go? You know, like this music is amazing.
We're now into like dystopian soundscapes versus composed music.
We're in a cyber runner age of digital everything.
Which I dig it. I dig it too. But like, I still miss this though. Like,
yes,
why can't we have some of this too?
There is something just beautiful about it. And the thing is, we are coming at it now just talking about like modern music. At the time, a lot of movies had soundtracks that sounded like this, just grand orchestration. But I think it was a time period in the 50s, we were moving out of the studios producing a movie a week, which was a big deal in the 30s, the 40s. Pump them out quick. That's why they were an hour and 10 minutes. The 50s and 60s, we started moving into more artistic films.
A little more excessive.
Yeah. And a little more experimentation. And I think this movie carries a lot of that early stuff with it, that experimentation, and really trying to elevate the art to it. So I gave the music a 4.
4?
I did also.
Yeah. Did you?
For the same reasons that Tim did, because I was like, this isn't recognizable enough for me to like be able to pick up on it and be like, oh fuck, that's House of Wax 1957, you know, or whatever. Yeah. But it was impactful enough watching the movie that I was like, fuck yeah, the score. So 4 out of 5.
Okay.
I'm hitting 3s on it, man. Like it was very good ambient sound as far as the soundtrack and backing music with the score and everything. Like, nothing really stood out, but it, I was just immersed. Immersed. The music did help immerse me. So, well, you know what? Maybe I'll change to a 4. I'll change to a 4.
Okay, all right. Yeah.
I'll change to a 4. The music did set a good tone, and the way you guys talked about it, I'm convinced. I'll go a 4.
So, Ricky, you brought up the sets earlier.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's one. So, diving into editing and special effects, I'm putting the sets and set design into this special effects department. We can mention the special effects of Vincent Price's makeup.
Oh, yeah.
Which was fantastic.
I'm second guessing my score right now.
Like, I did not know it was him. Honestly, I looked it up to see if somebody else played that part because he was disguised so well.
Right.
So well. So that part was great. But then the sets on this film look so good. Can you tell they are sets?
Yes.
Yes, very clearly they're studio sets with the sprinkler rain and the opening credits.
But they're fucking
it's very much a stage. count. It's a stage town set.
Yes,
but they're huge as fuck, and they're so well done.
Very big.
Yes, and they're beautiful.
Built really high.
Yes. So you do get that kind of claustrophobia of a stage set, but I don't know if it was the time period or this movie, but I felt like we were in the midst of turning a play into a film.
Mm-hmm.
So there are many times we have these gorgeous sets that you can tell are sets, but we're immersed in this story and it's being brought to our screen. And this was the first experimentation with 3D on film, which
also, yeah,
I want to know how some of this looked
right
in 3D, especially in 1953.
Oh, yes. Oh, I'm sorry. When you say that though,
you got excited about
yes. So the Barker.
Yes.
The freaking Barker.
That's the scene that came to my mind where I was like, oh, yeah, 3D. That's right.
He served no purpose.
Dude, no. Fourth wall break. He did a fourth wall break. 1953, they're doing a fourth wall break with the 3D action when the Barker's popping out the paddle ball and he's aiming at somebody in the audience and he's talking to the audience. If you're in the theater, he's talking to the audience, and it's somebody who's got popcorn in their hand wearing those 3D glasses, and they're losing their shit like, oh my God, that ball about hit me in the face. But no, not really.
Right.
And he's talking to, I'm not trying to hit you. I'm trying to hit your popcorn. Like,
I didn't
sit in 3D and do that. I was like, dude, that's so awesome.
Well, and
so awesome.
Is that not the first shot after our 10-minute intermission?
They do. So. You see that intermission scene because back then in the theaters is a bit different. They did intermissions.
Hey, bring back intermissions because I gotta pee.
Hell yeah!
Some people drink a lot of tea at work all day. You know,
I was kind of bummed out that the intermission was so short on the version I watched. I was like, fuck.
It's a 10-minute intermission. I'm like, sweet, I'm going to get a refill. Then it went away.
By the time I got out my chair, it was over. I had to sit back down.
But I thought that was incredible to do that fourth wall break at a time like that when they're just coming out with like the 3D film stuff. That was so cool.
Okay, it was super cool. As a fourth wall break, I was also blown away by that guy's talent.
He was good.
That guy was a G with those ping pongs.
Popping all those balls in his mouth. Yeah, very talented, bro. Very talented.
That guy was a G. Yeah.
Straight up. Old school paddling it. He liking him some paddle.
I give it a 4 because I was thoroughly impressed with the set design, with the effects, and I thought that, like, even though like it's dated, but the part where she's hitting him and like his wax face is falling off and like all of that just looks so cool.
It looks so good.
Effect.
Yeah, it was all just so good, and I can't imagine how fucked up it must have been in the 50s, you know?
Yes.
So taking all that into account, I'm thinking I might give it a 5. I might go up to a 5 on effects because I was taken aback by how good they were.
Did I give my score?
I'm not sure if you did.
I don't think I did. I gave it a 5 because between the sets, how good his face makeup looked, and that breaking scene is nearly, put stars around that. It's nearly seamless. Like they did it so well.
They did. It was very well executed, and it took me. I was taken aback by it. Like,
yep,
agreed.
I was a 5.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. I went with a 4. You know, when I first immediately saw how much I could tell that it was a staged studio set, I was like, man, I could tell. I mean, maybe they couldn't have wouldn't have recognized that at the time. But what we know now, they may be a little overcritical. But I was like, yeah, that's clearly a studio set. They've got the sprinklers on to simulate the rain.
Right.
You know, but the depth, but with a lot of those shots, though, the depth that they had in some of those scenes, I thought was pretty cool.
from like the chase scenes, man.
Yeah,
like
exactly. The chase scenes. The way they're going through so many different places, it seems like they're in a really large place, a very large city place, and maybe they're just cutting around a few small scenes and turns that are all built in the same little area. But still, for all I have to do that and catch all those shots, that seemed like it worked out really well, and that was a really big strength to it. So that was pretty cool.
For sure.
Aside from that, like all the other wax figures you see, and the way they mess around with that and that whole theme, and like when the fire doing like when the first museum burns down, getting to see how all the wax melts and everything, the controlled fire, the way they spread it around,
and the imagery here was really good,
so good.
Like I could see like as a kid. That might have scared me just watching some of these heads fall off of these wax figures and stuff.
Oh, the one where the eyeball popped out of the figure. I was like, this is intense for 53. But Jonathan, you brought up that fire. Real fire. Looks so good.
Yes, it does.
Vincent Price is running around through fucking fire all over the stage.
Yes.
And you're like, oh shit, that's kind of dangerous, bro. Like, I don't think they had the same kind of safety standards then like we do now.
I didn't even
like, that's a risky business. And like, if you got it, at least you can run off set real quick. But there was so much of it going on through that whole thing. Like, I was like, damn, they must have controlled that really well and really planned that out so that it would be overwhelming.
I didn't even think to include that in the special effects, but yeah, man, you're right. Real ass fire. How's that for special effects?
That looks so good. They're throwing pieces of clothing that are on fire across the room. They're like, it looked amazing because it was real, but also, the wax figures themselves look better than the wax figures from 2005.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah, they absolutely. Yes, I would definitely agree with that for sure.
They look more realistic. Now, the melting, 2005 has that awesome, like, revealing skeletons underneath and revealing. Like, that was awesome. This, we see the melting before he's been putting bodies in them.
Right.
And it still looks really freaking good. It looks so good. It was awesome. Yeah. So, Jonathan, were you sticking with your 4?
Yeah, I'm still sticking with my 4. I was going to say something else, and I kind of lost track for a second there. But no, like the cutting between like the whole fight scene when the museum's burning down, the transitions back and forth, even though it seems like Vincent Price and Maddie are having like a moderate but crazy gentleman's tussle. There's like...
I was very impressed with the fight choreography. I'm not gonna lie.
It still worked out well. They seemed like it kind of, you could tell it's kind of a fakey thing, but like they're playing it out as realistically. They're still in a safe doing way.
It,
they're not hardcore like they are today.
Right.
But between all the transitions back and forth, between all that and the messing back and forth, I thought they worked out pretty well.
It flowed well. The fight scenes and again, along with the chase scenes, they flowed really well, which is
but the thing that really caught me though was the way that they, like, when you see the start of the film and you see those gas lights, it's like a kind of a foreshadowing, like, man, hey, that's dangerous, dude. That's dangerous. And it totally plays into the story and how that goes. And not just because of Maddie and lighting the matches and trying to light the figure's clothes on fire, but how he goes up and blows out couple of the different flame lights.
My stepdaughter was asking me why he was doing that, and I was like, that's a gas light. He's fitting to make a big boom.
he's turning the place into a bomb. Yeah,
it's crazy. And I was like, I thought that was pretty awesome for the special effects. But like I said, with some of the set stuff and how you could tell certain parts of it, I mean, it was cool. And like when you see the bust of Sue, when Vincent Price is trying to get her to come and model as Marie Antoinette, I'm like, this is what we've got. This looks great, but I need you. Mm-hmm. Seeing the stuff like that in the different figures and the heads, I thought it was pretty cool. But I don't think it's 5. I'm sticking with my 4.
I think that one bust that the guy made of just the head looking up and screaming was dope as fuck. I would
That was
I would
cool,
like that
yeah.
on like a shirt or something with like some black metal font or something, you know?
Yeah.
I can make that happen.
Hell yeah.
I
Hell
can make
yeah.
that happen. Screenshot and do some editing, bro. I can totally make that happen.
That's
That could make
some
a dope
13 Nights of
ass
Halloween
album
merch.
cover. Yeah,
Hey,
there you
there
go.
you go. Boom. Some House of
I'll put that-
Wax.
I'll put that face on it.
Hell yeah.
Bet.
So-
The Bronson crazies.
Leading into the acting, this was
Wait,
a
we're gonna
struggle
talk
for
script?
me. Oh, did I skip? Oh,
Yeah,
Yeah,
God.
you just totally
Yeah,
skipped script.
Yeah, I skipped script. Okay. I'm going to read you the 5 earning line from this movie. Once in his lifetime, every artist feels the hand of God and creates something that comes alive. 5. That's so fucking good. I
Yeah.
love that line. But it's not just that. This movie is filled with great lines like that. And most of the great lines come from Vincent Price's character, Jared. I'm afraid that the visit of a such distinguished critic may cause my children to become conceited, speaking about his wax figures. To you, they are wax, but to me, their creator, they live and breathe. We don't write like this anymore.
He's so extra, man. Yeah,
There's a lot more
know it's not
eloquence.
him, but yeah, there's that eloquence, that extra, that oomph, and it didn't reach me.
It didn't.
But hearing you say it, I'm like, damn, yeah, those are some good ass lines.
I meant to write those lines down too because I wanted to highlight that, but I was like, no, I just gotta watch. I'm just gonna watch. Then
The emo kid in me is
I was
firing.
Yeah,
There's a lot of poeticism in a lot of those lines. So
I was
yeah,
sleeping on
Yes.
this dialogue, man.
Another line, everything I ever loved has been taken away from me, but not you, my Marie Antoinette, for I will give you eternal life.
Yeah.
And that's like when he's ready to kill her and turn her into wax.
Right,
Like,
right.
God, it's so good. Yeah. It is so good. Like, I had to put some of my issues with the script into the story because, like I said, we jump to him going crazy. It's not a slow burn. It's some of the other stuff. I put it with the fact that it's a bit between a stage play and a movie. And so it carries some of those stage play tendencies in its script. Either the melodrama, which is, I'd put that in the acting, but there's such poeticism to so many of these lines in a movie that is like, it's a horror movie. It was marketed as a shock movie. Like, this will shock you. It wasn't marketed as the best picture of the year, but a horror movie to contain that kind of poeticism. And even we talked about like some of those sexist lines that could be interpreted as being commentaries on the time period.
Sure.
Or, they could just be purely sexist lines.
Right, a modern commentary on that time period.
Yeah, exactly.
We're not sure which one.
Yes, but man, another one when he's about to turn her into the wax figure, like he knows he's not making it out of that final arrangement.
So he's rushing hard.
Yeah, because he says, quick. We'll find immortality together. They'll remember me through you.
Yep.
Like he's gonna.
I caught that line and loved it.
Yeah, it definitely sounds something like a serial killer would say. Yeah.
Yes.
Right. Exactly. Yes. That's Ted Bundy. That's Ted Bundy when they asked him what it's like to kill someone, and he said that when you're there in the moment, as you're watching the life leave someone's eyes, he says, in that moment, you are God. Like incredible, like poetic and scary as fuck.
Yeah, that's dark, man. That's dark.
Yeah.
That's dark.
And there's that scene, was it murder or suicide? Only time will tell. And then he misquotes Shakespeare with foul deeds will rise, though all the world overwhelm them to men's eyes. Like,
Yeah.
God, this script is like,
fuck, you're selling me on the script, man. I'm going up to 4.
I'm going to put my
to 4.
issues. What is missing from the script is part of the story's problem for me right now, because the story is the script is so damn good that I wish there were other things to explain some of those story elements that I'm missing.
Okay.
But even the dialogue between the two girls in the bedroom about her being high class and fancy and her being working class it explains who they are, their backgrounds, all of that without giving us huge exposition. Just in the way that she speaks to the other girl, we understand who they are. We don't write like this anymore. We don't write movies like this. And yeah, the acting, the melodrama with which it is performed takes away from it a bit. But the writing is there. When you sit there and you read these lines, you're like, damn, that's good stuff. So that's my 5. That's my 5.
You're killing me, man. Damn.
I'm going to a 4. You've convinced me. Yeah.
Okay.
I was at a 3 because there's so much cheese in there. There's so much cheese in there, bro. Like, oh my God. Like, so this is not really cheese, but early in the part where, Henry Jared is talking to his partner, Maddie, and he's like, okay, so this guy, Sidney Wallace, he's going to come over. He may be interested. And when they show up, he says, when he hears the knock door, says, that should be they now. I heard that, like, I had like a glitch, like, wait, what?
It's a non-binary knocking on the door.
Like, that should be they now. Like, it didn't sound right to me. I'm like, I keep thinking that should be them now. That should be them now because
like some of the
they are here. They are here. You do English linguistics.
Yeah, is that old English? Did he misspeak? Because that line did stick out for me. But
like kick me in the I got like a poke in the head. Like what?
I did like some of the old timey dialect though here and there. That I was like, okay.
Being 1953 and what they grew up with through like 30s and 40s, whatever. I can't. I was never there. I don't know. But it didn't.
Yeah, I did. That stood out to me. I was like, oh. And I chalked that up to either them attempting to write like it was 1890 or us not speaking like that at all.
Yeah, because the whole fact that the movie's made in 53, but maybe alluding to an earlier time, didn't really register in my head when I was watching it.
Sure.
I was like, why the hell is there a horse and buggy carton?
Right.
Why is there a horse-drawn fire station? Like, what? Wait, what?
The horse and buggy
engine. The fire engine was dope, though.
It was cool. It was
cool.
And the police horse and buggy was sick.
There's the line about somebody getting hit by an automobile, and then the guy goes, I didn't think they could move that fast.
Yes, that was good.
You had a traffic case since 9 o'clock. The fella that got hit by one of them automobiles.
I didn't think those stinking things went fast enough to hurt anybody.
Give them time. They're getting better every day.
I enjoyed that. Hell yeah.
That was a good line. That was a good line.
I did not expect the amount of humor this movie had, to be honest. Right. I thought it was going to be dry. I laughed out loud a couple times.
I did too. That line got me.
But yeah, there's also when the new wax museum is opening, the 2 or 3 young women who come in to check it out.
Yes,
they walk by the one guy. He's looking at his watch. He's like, "Oh, that looks like a real man." And the guy just looks over and goes, "It is." And they're like, "Oh my gosh!" I thought it was kind of funny. And
they were corny as fuck, but I did laugh and enjoy them.
There was some cheese in there.
Yeah.
Some straight up Swiss cheese with holes. So I gave it a 3, but after Tim, what you mentioned about the poeticism of the dialogue with Vincent Price, I'm going to go to a 4. I'm going to go to a 4.
Okay.
The man,
Price
the man deserves to. I'm going to go 4.
So put yourself in the movie theater in 1953 and imagine watching this movie and how welcome the comedic relief of those three girls would be after the intensity of what you've seen. Like, it'd be like, oh.
And the jokes of the detectives when they're investigating, even though how weird and inappropriate they are. There's some relief in a lot of different parts in the movie that kind of lighten it up a little bit. So you kind of you sit back like, okay, this is not so bad. Okay, I can enjoy it a little bit more before I get the fright and the terror again. You know,
for sure.
The more
they are not desensitized like we are now to the amount of violence we see these days.
Right.
Big contrast.
The morgue scene when the girl's body pops straight up and he's like, oh, it's the embalming fluid.
Hey, what's the matter with this one?
You'll get used to that. It's the embalming fluid makes them jump. That's one of the suicides. Just like a woman, they always have to have the last word.
And
that tripped me. I was like, ugh.
Yeah, but then he says the line, that's one of the suicides from earlier. Leave it to a broad to have the last word.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Yeah, dude.
Oh my gosh. Oh, wow.
That's the one I was trying to remember. Yes.
That's gotta be meant for humor. It can't be anything else. It's so good. It's so good. So yeah, yep. Okay, we're 5s and 4s on that script. So into the acting, which is where I want to give Vincent Price a 5 every time I see him because I love the man. Right. He just exudes. He can either be like this high class person or just this creepy person that gets under your skin, and he's often both at the same time.
Right.
And his voice is just haunting. Yes, it's so good. But
he's also got such a presence. And I'm sorry to cut you off, but I didn't realize how big of a man he is.
I forget. I was going to say, I forgot how tall he is.
And I didn't realize that. And hearing him speak so eloquently with that voice and being so imposing on screen at the same time really took me aback a bit.
Yeah,
you know?
He's captivating. He is so good. Unfortunately, the rest of the performances in this movie. Here's the thing. Again, I keep saying this is a lot like a stage play brought to screen because I get that melodrama of a stage play.
For sure.
And I think that's something that was very common in filmmaking in the 40s
of the
and the
time.
50s.
Yes, definitely.
It is very much of the time. It unfortunately, like I said, damaged some of the great lines that were there is they're just delivered melodramatically. Her fear is so melodramatic throughout the film. Her screams and her shock is melodrama. Vincent crawling across the floor in the fire is so melodramatic. It's so... But it's good. So I gave it a 4 because Vincent is amazing as always, but there's just everything is weighted with this melodrama of stage play, which it's kind of an acquired taste. You either like it and can tolerate it, or there are many people who can't. It comes off cheesy and corny. So I can understand that side of it because it very much is. There's a reason why like people don't go to Broadway or stage plays, you know? So I think this was just very much of the time in that it carried the melodrama from a stage to screen. It was fine for this movie. Vincent was captivating. He especially captivated me with his physical performance as that caped, hatted figure crawling through the streets. Yeah. So
he reminded me of the actor, and I can't like when he had the makeup on. I'm sorry to cut you off. He looked like the actor that played Voldemort. What's his name?
Oh, Jesus.
That's who he reminded me of.
Ralph, isn't it Ralph? Fiennes?
Something like that, maybe. I don't know, but I was like digging it.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah, this guy's got kind of like a, what is it? What's his name?
It's Ralph Fiennes. It's some French
Fiennes.
name, so you only pronounce one of those syllables.
Okay, well, he's got that Ralph thing, but he's dressed kind of like a fucking Spanish Inquisition guy, you know, and he's creeping around and like, yeah, man, absolutely.
It made me think of The Shadow.
Okay,
The way he's got the brimmed hat and
Yes,
cape,
yes. Yep.
all black. Reminds me of The Shadow. That was an old school figure. It was kind of a thing at the time. Old school radio shows kind of thing.
I might have too much Monty Python on the brain all the time, but I kept thinking if this was all red, it would be the Spanish Inquisition.
Okay, fair enough. Fair enough. I can see that fitting with the hat being red and the cape being red. Everything being I totally get that. I can totally get that.
Eyes wide
Spanish
shut, red.
Inquisition.
Anyways,
I've never seen that.
Well, with me,
been years.
I hit the acting at a 3. You know,
So did
Vincent
I.
Price, yes, was awesome, but a lot of other people still had their cheese going on in there, especially with like some of the acting from the detectives. Charles Bronson, before he really got big into film, you know, having no lines may have been a benefit to him at the time. I don't know, having that silent role. But everything else just seemed kind of just a standard. And like you said, they were pumping out a movie like every week in a lot of these studios. So there's a lot of rush. They don't want you to focus too much. Quick takes, initial runs, get it out, edited, pop.
If we're doing 20 takes, like you're costing money, cousin. Like
you're costing us tape. You're costing us film. We're not doing that, you know.
Right.
We're not running up big budgets on this shit. We're going to cut and run. Let's go.
That's
So
a
with the
40
acting,
million or 400 million budgets of today.
so yeah, I think 3 is fair. You know, I feel like I sit pretty comfortably at that as a 3.
No,
same,
I think it's
same. Vincent carried it. Some of the melodrama doesn't land. Some of the comedy doesn't necessarily land. But overall, you know, it's serviceable. And Vincent definitely pushes it further than that mediocre. You know, it's not it's not a bland acting.
I think if you took Vincent out of this movie and put somebody else in, no one would be talking about it today.
That
could be true, yeah.
Not
That
for
could
the
be,
acting anyway.
for sure.
They might be talking about it for the effects,
For the 3D.
and just the general makeup and stuff. Like because that's I mean that's a big standout. But you're right. Like if this movie didn't have Vincent, it definitely wouldn't be the cultural have the cultural impact, which we'll get to later. That it definitely has.
Well, let's jump into the direction. So Jonathan brought up, like, you're not doing multiple takes. You're kind of taking what you got, rolling with it. You might do a couple extra takes if something is botched terribly. But one
3
of
to
the
5,
things,
maybe 7 or 10, maybe.
Yeah. One of the things that I loved about this movie is the long takes.
Mm-hmm.
That the camera will not cut for minutes and will track across the wax museum as we follow people, or will track from one object to another. And it was
man after my heart.
Oh yeah, display from one to the next when he's talking about the macabre portion of the new museum. Yeah, and you go from scene to scene, and it just he keeps rolling around. He comes over here, comes over here, and they just follow. They listen. You got small cuts in there where you got the ladies you got the one lady who faints eventually.
Right.
Smelling salts lady, free smelling salts. Oh, thank you. Oh, thank you.
Smelling salts. Yeah.
It's the same lady. She faints when that paddle guy puts all the balls in his mouth. She faints then too.
But not the balls in the mouth. Oh my God.
Yeah.
She was very triggered.
Yeah.
It's like,
too many balls. Too many
I'm
balls.
can't
balls.
even right now.
I thought it was aroused.
Yeah.
But I
a
love
little too risque for 1950. What
He
was
would
it?
do that in
1953, trying to pour straight something in the like late 1800s. Yes, so
it was really it was when he put 3 balls in. Anyways, the
choked on his balls. I don't know.
You're not even supposed to have that
didn't-
many. I'm sorry.
That's one too many.
It's too much. Jeez, what are you doing? Oh.
Where'd he get the third one?
Right.
So if you've paid attention to this channel at all over time, you will know that I hate quick, abrupt, short cuts. I hate it. It's fine. It serves its purpose for the movies. But I think overall it tends to be somewhat lazy, not just from a direction standpoint, but your actors are required to be in character for 0.2 seconds because that's all the shot is.
Right.
This movie does not do that at all. These takes are minutes long at times. And it's one of those other things that I keep mentioning about a stage play. A stage play, you are in character the entire time you're on stage.
Right.
And this brings that to the screen. And it's one of the things that I love is that, yes, we've talked about the sets and the script and the acting, but I often felt like I was watching a stage play because the camera didn't cut. We're watching them perform this scene for minutes at a time. The opening scene is one of those great scenes. I loved it. I loved it. And there's a lot of little clues to the way the camera moves in this that is honestly beyond what I expected from this film. I expected it to be pretty straightforward. The director was blind in one eye. He couldn't see 3D. He couldn't.
Shit.
His depth perception was off.
Whoa.
I see blue. Where's everything else?
So I think that actually added to avoiding some of those cliche, like Friday the 13th Part 3.
Right,
Or
right.
Yo, right at your face. This one, it does that, but not over the top. Like we have that one fist that comes flying at the screen during a punch. But what I loved is the way he used in that same scene, we watch a fight happen through shadows on the wall.
Yes.
And then a chair flies across the screen, and then they tussle in front of the camera.
Right.
And I was like,
That's something, and I'm not trying to cut you off. I'm sorry,
go
man.
for it.
Yeah,
I
that's
want an
something.
open
That's what I
discussion.
mean by I was so impressed with like the fight choreography. It's not just the choreography, it's the way it's filmed. It's the way it flows so good. Like, no, it wasn't super impressive, but it just had such a consistent flow to it. Like someone actually took time to figure out, all right, how are we going to do this? Get these guys struggling from here to here. Who's going to be hitting when? Who's going to throw the other guy over his shoulder? Like it just felt like it didn't feel real, but it felt meticulous, and I appreciated it big time.
Okay.
Well, and you bring up the fight choreography, like that opening segment had some nasty moments, not in the fight per se, but Vincent gets knocked unconscious and then stands up and goes back to get water to try to put the fire out.
Yeah.
And his business partner stops him and beats him again.
Right.
Like you can tell he's dazed. You can tell he's dazed, and just his only concern is to save and preserve.
That was
just not ignoring the fact that he just had a fight.
I honestly thought he was gonna burn on that pyre.
I thought
so
it was,
did I.
And I was like, this is so symbolic with the fucking Joan of Arc thing.
Yeah.
And he's burning on the pyre
martyr
and shit. Yeah.
Martyr
Like,
to his own
they didn't
craft.
go that route necessarily, but like just that coupled with some of the imagery. Are we on direction right now? I'm not sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
We're on direction.
Okay. So yeah, that coupled with some of the imagery of like, just like, again, with the music swelling, the mannequins just slowly melting and burning and everything's on fire. Like the imagery in this film is dope. It's dope as fuck. Like,
yeah. We have those harsh reds and yellows of that fire, that scene going on. Then later we have his direction. Like we've mentioned the chase through the streets,
Yes.
where it's blues and blacks and it's dark and it's shadowy and it's fantastic. But I was also going to say, like, these actors for the most part look to do their own stunts, because during that fight at the beginning, Vincent goes to pull him away from the door. And the guy throws Vincent into that railing that's on fire, and Vincent tumbles like half a floor. It's just, I was shocked by the execution.
I was impressed by all this. I was like, look at what they're doing.
See now?
It's
you guys,
good.
You guys kill me because you keep saying all this stuff. And like, and then it reminds me of other things that I got to bring up. Damn it.
Yeah, bring it up. Bring it up.
Yeah.
So I was at a 3. I was at a 3.
I was
you guys
too.
make
I'm
some good
going
points.
up.
And then it brings all the things that brings to mind. I changed it to a 4 because okay, with the fact that it was the first 3D film, in that early fight scene when the Wax Museum is burning down at the beginning, when Henry and Maddie are fighting, they're throwing stuff around the set. Okay, Maddie takes whatever big, large thing it is, I thought it was like a bottle or something, and throws it towards the camera.
Yep.
Hits the camera because you see that boom and you see a little shake.
Right.
He was trying to aim close to it, but he actually hit part of the camera. And that effect for the fact that it's a first 3D film and having that coming at you and thinking about what that would be like in that perspective, and that rush of like, oh my God, there's something coming out of my face. Oh, geez,
It's so good.
That just gets me. And on top of the fact that the Barker with the paddle balls, that fourth wall break I talked about earlier, and how they're aiming to really engage the audience in the theater.
Right.
That is such a novel thing, especially since it's the first one.
Absolutely.
Who else would have got how you could really engage the audience in that such a special way that makes such a big impact? So I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go from a 3 to a 5, bro.
Whoa!
I'm gonna go 3 to a 5.
Whoa!
Yeah, I'm gonna switch it up.
He's stepping up quite a bit.
I was thinking of doing the same thing, but now I feel like if I do it, I'm gonna be, I don't know, like I'll feel dumb doing it or something.
You could go from a 3 to a 4. Ride the wave, bro. It doesn't matter if you feel impressed, if you feel inspired.
I've been on your show, and this is how it happens.
I'm gonna go to a 4.5.
4.5. Here he is.
Sassy man.
I love it.
There was some good direction. And with the chases through the town area, from the bedroom of Kathy out onto the back of the apartment building, down, out, trying to get to this gate, unlock this gate, rush through the streets. And then the fact that she has the presence of mind
when she actually fought with that gate instead of hopping over it, I was like, "Come on, girl,
just jump!" Oh, it's not lady likes to jump over the gate. I don't know.
I know you got it in you.
You mentioned her bedroom when she first discovers her friend murdered. That scene is shot so beautifully. She walks in the dark, but we just have these two big black or lit windows and everything else is dark, and she walks in front of them and goes down and leans down on her friend. Yeah, the reveal that he's hiding there is slow. It's not like, why did he step out of hiding? Whatever. But that scene, that shot of her kneeling over the bed, it reminded me of Nosferatu.
Hey.
Which is like, that would have been 30 years before this film, but it had that same kind of eerie vibe of her just, she's checking on her friend, but the lighting in that, so good.
And that goes again to, you mentioned shadow play earlier with the atmosphere and everything. Yeah, man. This movie's got shadow play out the wazoo. So I definitely dig that reference. I didn't catch it, but I definitely dig that reference now that you mentioned it.
Yeah, but not only that though, that even through the chase scenes through the cityscape, She gets to the point where the cobblestone streets, the noise, she realizes I'm making too much noise. That's how he's tracking
Takes off
me.
her boots.
Takes off her boots and pulls them up to use as a weapon. She's ready to defend herself with those heels and bash this dude if she has to. That sense of presence of mind, to have that kind of direction, be like, I'm fearing for my life. I mean, if he keeps chasing me, what am I going to do? I got to defend myself. Make myself
Either
silent.
defend yourself or
and get
beat
ready to beat this dude to nothing with these heels if I have to.
Yeah.
Awesome strength scene as part of that arc for the character, going from fear instantly to going into preservation mode, fight or flight. She did the flight. It's not working. He's still coming. Now it's time to fight. And she prepares. She gets ready. That's awesome. So I think that really impresses more on the arc also, but plus direction on how they made that scene go. Fantastic.
You know what?
Sure.
You know what? I'm coming
That's
up
why I'm
to
taking 3 to 5. 3 to 5, buddy.
I'm coming up to a 5 too. That's so good. Well, you brought it up earlier, and I forgot to mention it during the script, but it definitely goes under direction, was the subtle clues that he's been picking out people related to his insurance case. That if you're not paying attention, you miss it. It initially just like, here's a tour of the Wax Museum from Jared's eyes. Then later we see it from the police's eyes where they're like, that guy looks like this missing person. That guy looks like that murder suspect. And you're like,
is it so coincidental? So coincidental.
Yeah, it's good.
Or is it coincidence?
Yep.
I wonder.
So I came up.
Let's just gaslight this woman and ignore everything she says and her fears. Until we finally figure it out. Okay.
Was she on a monthly or something?
Jesus.
That would have fit in this movie.
Yeah.
Oh, God. Oh,
They would have said that. All right. So the cultural significance, if we haven't already hinted to it enough throughout this recording, this was, I want to double check it. I want to double check it just to make sure I'm not misleading the 6 people who watch this show.
Hey, all 6 of you. Yay!
Yeah,
I'm one
we
of
love
them.
you.
We appreciate you.
Yeah,
I'm
are.
one of them. Hey.
Hey, I appreciate you, buddy.
And we love having you on the show. Have we mentioned that?
Well, thanks for having me. Have I mentioned that?
Yeah, that's why I said I appreciate you having you here.
Oh, okay. He's so polite. I just love him.
Oh my God, such a nice boy.
He's a nice young fella.
Okay, so it looks
he
like
mutes his mic when he farts now.
So it looks like the first ever 3D film was The Power of Love in 1922. However, so 1936, MGM's Audioscopics developed by some people one novelty for a short that was 3D. 1952 to 1955 was the first boom period for 3D cinema, which was led by House of Wax.
Oh,
gotcha.
Okay.
So this was the first like major wide release that ushered in a 3D era of film. So this was where most of our 1950 to 55 3D movies came after this one. So it was historically significant, even if it's not the very first 3D film. It had a huge impact on film, but not just on film. I hate 3D movies. I'm just going to put that out there.
Oh yeah,
Most of the
same.
time-
I don't try to watch
Be
them.
annoying. Fair.
Most of the time they're gimmicky. This one has hints of gimmick, but it wasn't overwhelming. But most of the time the theater experience, I get headaches, everything's blurry. I don't like it.
Same.
But it's a big deal for a lot of people. Transformers in 3D was awesome. But this also kickstarted Vincent Price's career. And
Yes.
Vincent Price, as the 3 of us said, we knew him from childhood, really, whether it was parents introducing us to him, seeing him on Batman 66, which say what you want about that show. It's great.
It's fucking awesome.
Adam West is Batman. It's not my Batman, but
it's one of my favorite Batmans.
Batman.
And he had so many cameos. He had so many cameos throughout the 80s, the 90s, with so many different things.
I mean,
he was very synonymous
Thriller, man.
in the horror world for so many people.
Thriller, right? Didn't he do the narration for the Thriller video?
Yeah, he did.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That was super key with part of Michael Jackson's career in the 80s.
That song
Or was it
wouldn't
the early
be
90s?
that song wouldn't be as good without Vincent Price.
If you look him up on IMDb, Thriller is like the image next to his name. Like that is
there you go.
That is one of his biggest things. But before this, he wasn't really a horror guy before this movie.
Right. This is what jump-started his horror career.
Yes. He did like Adventures of Captain Fabian, Curtain Call at Cactus Creek, Champagne for Caesar, Baron of Arizona, Baghdad, The Bribe, Three Musketeers, so on. He was in Abbott and Costello Meet Frankenstein. He was the voice of the Invisible Man from 1948.
Nice.
That's a fantastic film. So he did a lot of stuff before this. Like we said, studios were doing things almost weekly at that point. But this was the one that launched his career into doing horror movies, which became his calling card. After this, he did, not directly after this, but kind of because of this, he went in to do The Mad Magician. He went on to do Alfred Hitchcock Presents. He was in some of that. The Fly from 1958, which is another movie we're talking about. We're actually talking about that one with Travis.
Oh, hell yeah.
He did House on Haunted Hill, Return of the Fly,
Yes.
The Tingler, The Bat. He went on to do The House of Usher. His Poe movies from the 60s were how I was introduced to him.
That's awesome.
The House of Usher, The Pit and the Pendulum, those, like, that became what he was known for, his horror, his creepy, buttery smoothness of just him was so good. So this movie, like, I'm praising it ridiculously. I give it a 4. Like, it didn't inspire a ton of sequels, didn't go on, but I guess maybe a Hall of Fame nomination, or not even nomination. It was inducted into the Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Maybe that, I don't know if you can get much more culturally significant than going into the Hall of Fame.
It's definitely a must watch from a cultural standard if you're into horror. You know what I mean? And it's a shame that it took me 37 years to see it.
I agree.
That's my fault. But yeah, like I'm coming in at a 4. I'm coming in at a 4. It's not Psycho. It's not, it's not something that's, I mean, because Psycho, like, you don't even have to know what the movie is, but if you hear the wait, you know what that is. The Michael Myers theme, the Halloween theme, you know what that is. That's cultural. I'm going with a 4.
I think I'm going to stick with a 4 on its cultural significance between jumpstarting Vincent's career, the Hall of Fame nomination, and being the front runner to the 50s boom of 3D.
Yeah,
I give it a 4.
See, man, now I feel stupid because I didn't give it that much thought, and I didn't know. Like I said, I didn't do any research, so I didn't know all the aspects about how important it was as being part of, like, being like the first major 3D film that really spurred it. I had it at a 2, and God, you guys make so many good points, and I feel like a goo bag, so I'm changing to a 4.
Okay.
Just gonna say, I'm gonna go for a 2 to a 4. I'm making double jumps this episode.
Our scores are crazy on this one.
Hopscotching.
We are 4s
straight up.
4s across the board. Even though we've talked about the appreciation for the way this movie was constructed, that shouldn't change how much we enjoyed it.
Right.
So, on to the enjoyment. Anybody want to go first, or should I?
I gave it a 6.
Oh,
Okay.
no, okay.
I gave it a 6 on enjoyment. I enjoyed the hell out of it, but it's not something that I would see myself rewatching unless it was like, hey mom, have you ever seen the OG House of
Yes.
Wax? You know, because I bet I could get my mom to watch this movie, and I bet she would enjoy it and not have nightmares and hate me for the rest of my life.
Yeah, fair.
This isn't something that like
Yeah.
I love, but like as I'm watching, I'm just seeing the craft of it, and I'm seeing this like old school Hollywood, and I'm just digging on it, you know. So yeah, I give it a 6. There was a little. There were times where I was like, man, like, let's move along. Let's move along a little bit, you know, pacing issues. And that's really what did it for me. Well, did it in for me. But, yeah, 6. That's
I
what
actually,
I'm
I would agree. I think Act 2 drags. Like
Yeah.
the middle part of the film, after we get his creepy person show up and capture the body, and then we get the reveal of him in the wheelchair, that drags for quite a bit after that scene. But after we've talked about it through this, I appreciate it more, seeing some of the parallels that are drawn during that time.
Same.
I appreciate that. But man, I was a 7 for much the same reasons. I think it dragged at points. I appreciate the craft. I loved looking at it and being like, damn, they cared.
Right.
They cared about what they were making. And you can see that in just about every frame. But to modern audiences, it's a bit slow. It's a bit boring. It's not one I will go back to often. If I'm honest, and this almost hurts me to say, I'm more likely to put on the 2005 version for a party.
Sure.
Like,
no, I get it.
Relatability, generational.
Yeah.
If I'm having a gathering, I'm probably going to put the 2005
I would
on
rather
before I put
watch Paris Hilton die, man. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Unless you got a group that's really down for old school film,
Exactly.
then you would definitely go 2005 over this one, over 53.
Yeah, I was struggling between a 6 and a 7, and maybe I'm being overly critical, but like the enjoyment factor, I landed on a 6 because I was like, how often am I going to watch this? You know?
Right. Yep. I think you're fine at a 6. Like I said, I'm at a 7. Part of that is why I probably went up a little bit is I love old movies. That's what I was raised on. Yeah. You know, I wasn't allowed to watch anything rated R, so I had to go back to before the R rating existed.
Sure. Back when you could have like sexual assault and titties and like violence, and it was rated like PG or some shit.
It's PG, Mom. Right. Airplane.
Yeah, like back when ratings just didn't matter.
Yeah. Hey, his parents with him. It's fine.
Right. CC. What?
Yep. But so I have a soft spot for movies of this ilk, this kind. I enjoy it a lot. It's not one I'm going to watch frequently, though, like you said. I might go back to it. Our conversation today has made me appreciate it far more than my first watch. Same. My second watch, it is one that my second watch, I picked up on some things that I was like, okay, this movie's better than I thought. So yeah, I was a 7. I enjoyed it, but it's not a turn it on again immediately.
I actually fell asleep during the second act the first time I watched it.
Oh,
and I had to pick it back up and rewind through to figure out where I fell asleep and rewatch it yesterday.
That intermission hits the brakes, man.
Yeah.
So, that kind of messed with you a little bit. Yeah, they should have maybe just left that intermission clip out.
Granted, I was all payad. You know, I was inebriated, but still, you know.
See, I was surprised because I figured it sounded like you guys enjoyed it way more than I did. So I figured your scores would have been higher than mine. But yeah, I was at a 7 also. I mean, there was a lot of good runaround, a lot of good action. The scenes were, I felt like were kind of decently paced at certain points, depending on sense of urgency and tension. You know, so Yeah, I feel like 7's a comfortable place to be for me on this. So I'm glad that we're kind of relative on that.
Yeah.
But I just surprised with the way you guys just figured
We're
you guys
all
would've
in
been higher than me.
we're all in sync pretty good right now. It's
Yeah,
gonna
we
be
are.
We're not a
May.
boy band. You shut your mouth. We're not a boy band.
It's
We're
gonna
not in
be
sync.
May.
No, it's not gonna be May.
I think I know I say it frequently, but man, I love the scoring system I came up with because we can acknowledge the craft of the film
Right.
and then acknowledge that we don't necessarily like it's not our favorite movie. You know,
Right.
we can go through and be like, damn, they really paid attention here and they did a great job here, but I'm probably not going to watch this movie for another year or so. You know,
Right. I'm my biggest thing with this movie is I think I might try to get my mom to watch it. I think
Dude,
it could be
definitely.
fun.
Yeah, sure.
I
If
think
she doesn't know nothing about it, definitely.
because she's not a horror person at all. Like, I mean, like she'll watch like the Alien movies and stuff, but like that's like as deep as she goes in the weeds with it. And most of the time, if you just say horror around her, her mind goes straight to stuff she doesn't even know exists. Like if someone were to like explain a Serbian film to my mom, she would probably just assume that's what all horror is. So she wouldn't even be surprised. She'd be like, "Well, of course that's what it is. It's evil. It's horrible," you know. So
yeah,
the devil.
right.
But no, Mama, it's not the devil. It's just Vicky Valancourt.
It's just, she showed me her boobies, and I like them too. That's the movie of my people, bro.
That is a Cajun film, bro.
Literally.
It's a Cajun film.
I'm just saying.
That is Louisiana.
Yeah, man.
all right. So
I love Louisiana. That's great.
let's look at wrapping this up. So our final total enjoyment wrapped in with the construction and how well the movie was made. My total is a 41.
No shit.
So my total 41, believe that puts it in the great category of, and this is one of those that it's more 41 to 48 is amazing. So I do think might have been generous, but I do think, no, it is an amazing film for being one of the earliest examples of 3D
Sure, yeah.
that we've ever seen. The way it was,
If only we had seen it in 3D, maybe that would be a different perspective.
I agree. I wish I could see it
with its impact and everything. Absolutely.
Yes. Its impact, the Vincent Price aspect of it.
Yeah, man.
I mean, the fact that there was even a remake made decades later,
In
nearly
2005 of all time.
yeah, nearly 50 years later.
The season of cash grabs.
Yeah.
But like we said, this was a loosely a proto slasher, and the next movie just kind of took that and embraced it.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, I do think it's an amazing film, I guess, but it's not one that I'm going to put on for crowds of people, as I previously said. So
It's something I would definitely recommend to other people to watch, especially if they've seen 2005 and if they do like films and like to see the difference in how stories have progressed. Because no matter what you do, there's always going to be a rehashing of a story. And we've seen that so many times with so many different iterations with us, with the fact that we're doing originals versus remakes and seeing how these stories change over time while they still try to maintain that original plot. There's always going to be rehashed. You go look at any other film, like what was it, like The Longest Yard? There's been like 3 of those. There's been multiple iterations of so many different types of films, that are remakes of this and this and this and this, rehashing those stories, like Ocean's 11 and like all the things that spur from that after they did remakes of that. They're going to see so many different iterations of things, and just that perspective of how it changes over time is pretty cool. And, I hate the fact that there's not much as far as originality as we'd like to see these days, but it's still interesting to see how people try to retell a lot of these classic stories,
And part of me wonders if I would have enjoyed this far more if I had watched it first.
Yeah, Yeah.
That's
You know,
It'd be a very different perspective if we'd seen this, before everything else.
and that ruins, like, man, my whole setup was to think that the remakes are usually inferior films, and so we were trying to give them as much credit as we could.
right. Give them some kind of curve to grade on.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Which
then
is a great way to give some perspective.
realizing that the twists might be taken from the original source, which then
What a twist.
Yeah, which then lessens the impact of the original. So
Yeah, agreed. So I come out to a 36.5. I'm going to round up to a 37 because I think Mr. Price alone deserves it. And the director. I don't remember the director's name, but you deserve it, boy.
Andre de Toth.
You're probably dead, but you deserve it. I'm giving you your props.
I'm pretty sure, wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, overall, like, this is just something that's been on my back burner, like much of the classic horror movies. And again, like I mentioned, Hammer Horror. I've been wanting to dive into these older movies for so long. I'm glad I did.
Me too.
I had fun with it. I think this is a great film. And I want to watch it with my mama. That's what I want to do. That's my homework. I'm gonna sign it myself.
Bring the family together.
I'm gonna go watch this with my mama. I think she'll dig it.
I love that. Honestly. Yeah, because I do. I mean, the 2005 one, I'm not showing it to my mom.
My mom wouldn't watch that one.
Yeah. But there is
those kids are too loose for my values.
Oh yeah. As soon as she'd see Paris Hilton, she'd be like, "Ricky, what this is retarded. We're not doing this right now."
But I do think that is something special about this era of film is that it can bring an even wider audience together.
Sure.
Than if you're a horror. Did you have something to say? You okay?
Yeah, I totally forgot to bring this up, but
okay, bring it up.
The sense of moral perspective versus what we see today versus what they experienced when the film was made in 1953 versus the time when it was portrayed in the late 1800s. Because like the point where they're at the club with Scott and Sue, and she's talking about her stuff, and he's trying to play it off. And they're watching these ladies dancing on stage, kicking up their skirts, and wearing bloomers and showing their legs and how exposed they are. And like her judgment of those ladies and what they're doing, these dancers.
Yeah.
Sue is very judgmental. There's a moral standard and perspective here. And even with with Henry Jared's assistant, who's the alcoholic, they're playing off some really big things that were important to them because they're coming out of when was well, I was thinking originally that it was around Prohibition.
Prohibition hadn't been ended for long. I mean, Prohibition ended right before World War I or during World War I, maybe even.
Right. So you got people with this addiction to alcohol, and you got these clubs where they're starting to drink again, and then like these women, this sense of promiscuity for the time.
Right.
You didn't see that kind of thing. That wasn't acceptable. So there was a lot of judgment for those dancing ladies.
That's crazy.
That
so this movie was released 20 years after Prohibition ended.
Okay. So there's still people that still have some long-standing feelings about Prohibition
with alcohol
and that moral standard. Yeah.
Prohibition was such bullshit.
But our total altogether is 39.5 ish, which rounds up to 4 stars out of 5.
Hell yeah!
So we're gonna finish this up, but 4 stars out of 5. Or the, what did I say it was? 40. Yeah, that makes it a solid, great movie, bordering on amazing. So I do think great's probably a better category for it for social settings. It's a great one. You got to have people who appreciate film to watch it. but it's a solid 4 out of 5 stars all in all. So, Jonathan.
It's been a fantastic discussion. A lot of points made, a lot of changes, but still a lot of awesomeness discussed. So as we draw the curtains on episode 8 of our 13 Nights of Halloween series, we hope you enjoy this haunting journey back to the classic horror of 1953's The House of Wax. With Vincent Price's unforgettable performance and the film's innovative use of 3D technology, it's no wonder this movie has cemented its place in horror history. Special thanks to Ricky from the Nightclub podcast for joining us tonight and sharing his invaluable insights into this iconic film. We always glad to have you here, brother. Your passion and expertise have added a rich layer to our discussion, making this viewing experience all the more captivating.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for having me. I love being here.
We also hope you savored our Wicked Wax Martini, a fittingly eerie and elegant cocktail to accomplish such a timeless masterpiece. Stay tuned for tomorrow night's episode where we continue our thrilling exploration of horror remakes versus originals.
So tomorrow we're talking the original Suspiria.
Oh, shit.
I have not seen the original. I have not seen the original.
Have you seen the remake?
Yes.
Yeah? Oh, wow.
So
Get ready for sensory overload.
As we edge closer to Halloween, the scares only get better and the comparisons more intriguing. Until then, keep your lights dim, your popcorn ready, and your nerves steady. Happy haunting.